everybody, how are you? We are almost at the end of our first month of Wellness Reboot, and we are going to bump things up a notch. So I want you to get on Amazon, and in most places you'll be able to have this stuff in a day, overnight. And you are going to look up Gym in a Bag. Now, there's all different kinds of brands. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. But you should see where you have yellow, green, red, blue, and black bands. And they will look like this, okay? And in the set, it's going to come with handles that you can attach to whatever color you're using. And then it will also come with a door attachment. It should also come with an ankle attachment, which is great. We'll do that on Thursday. But I'm going to show you some upper body exercises that you can do. And this is great. I take this with me everywhere. I mean, especially if there's no gym available. So, I go to my mom's house, whatever, throw these in the bag. And they range from very light, medium, heavy, very heavy type of thing. So you'll gauge what works for you. And just as if you were using weights, because this is resistance, it is placing a load on the muscle. So you don't want to do this every single day. You want to allow a day in between a particular exercise. So if we do back today, we're not going to do back tomorrow. We can, do it again on Thursday. So conceivably, you could do each muscle group twice a week if you're so inclined. Or you can do everything in one day, however you want to break it up. Anyway, what I have done is I have put the handles or the grips on each end of this red band, which is kind of a medium band, and I put the door attachment on it already. Now, door attachments look very different depending on the brand. It might be just a teeny tiny thing with a thick part that will go on the other side of the door. And because this one is so long, sometimes I have to put more of it on the other side of the door, if that makes sense. So let's open up the door. We're going to put this over the top. Now you want to make sure that your door will close completely, because otherwise it's going to open up and you're going to get a band in your face. We're going to use this later. All right, so I make sure that these are level, that both of my grips are level. And I want to show you to start with a fantastic exercise. Not only is it going to work the large muscles in your back, but it is great for shoulder stability. All right, we want to really work on our posture, and all of us can use to improve that. So we're going to take a nice, strong, erect stance, not robotic, but shoulders back. And I'll show you without the bands. I want you to retract. So that's this movement. Now, without doing this, I don't want you to elevate your shoulders. So we want to keep our head in alignment. You're going to get a little tension on the bands, and you'll know what I mean once you have them in your hands. You're going to retract, and then with straight arms, you're going to pull them down just past the midline of your body. And so this is going to work your shoulders, your back, and you're going to feel it in your triceps. And I want you to really engage your abs when you're doing this. So this could be a really good core exercise as well. It's not the same as doing crunches, but we're working those deep core stabilizers, which are more important. I always think of a six-pack kind of like a Halloween costume. You can put it on and be like, hey, look at my six-pack. But it's superficial. What we want to work is we want to work all of those muscles that are underneath that layer, that are really supporting your spine and helping to prevent back pain and improve your posture. So once I've got this here, I want to just, adjust, make sure everything is even. And then I'm going to step back. I don't have much room here, but I'm going to step back just so I've got a bit of tension on here. And it's okay if you have to move closer or further away as you're doing this. So let's get a little bit of an angle going here. So knees are soft, belly buttons in, shoulders go back, and then I'm going to take it straight down. Now that's a perfect example of how this slipped through the door, because I was trying to get more tension on it. But depending on how big of a crack you have between the top of the door and the door jamb, that can happen. So that's okay. I'm just going to step back a little bit further to get that tension. And I'm going to go straight down and then slowly come up. And if, let's face it, I don't have any tension when it's up here. but the lighter band is too light for me, and if I create more tension, it's too hard on my shoulder because I actually do need a shoulder replacement. So knees soft, belly button towards my spine. I'm going to exhale, pull all the way down, and then slowly come up. And that's where you're really going to feel your abs. Exhale as you come down. Inhale as you go up. And each time I want you to retract and take it down. Breathing is really important. Not just breathing, but how you breathe. So you want to exhale on exertion. And in this case, exertion is when I'm pushing down. Okay, I'm going to do 10 of these, but you can start, I would try and find a band in which you can do 10 to 12, 12 to 15. And then on the last one, I'm going to let it go up really, really slow and feel the burn. Now, the one thing I will tell you, and I am very susceptible to this, is that I tend to tense up my neck muscles. And it's not because I don't know how to do this properly. It's not because I'm not doing it properly. It's because my shoulder's messed up, and no matter what I do until I get that surgery, I'm compensating with other muscles. So if you start to feel it in your neck, you want to break out those neck stretches that we've done, where we do lateral flexion, we do that on both sides, then we do it diagonally. Remember, you're keeping that other shoulder down, and do that on both sides. Now, when you do this, you're going to hold it for 20 to 30 seconds. And then you can do some shoulder shrugs to kind of loosen things up a bit and do some shoulder circles. And these are also our lymphatic drainage exercises for those of you who have been doing those. So that will help loosen up your neck. The other thing that I'll do is I will do some myofascial release on my own. It helps to have some lotion. But when you're rubbing the length of the muscle and when you feel that knot or the epicenter of your pain, press on it, and it, take some deep breaths because it's really painful, but then you're going to feel that sudden release when the spasm kind of breaks up. So you can do that throughout the day. I find myself doing it quite often, even when I'm sitting in a traffic light, just kind of rubbing out my neck. And you can also do those head retractions against your car seat headrest. Okay, so I call this straight arm press down. And like I said, we're working our back muscles, we're working our shoulders, and we're working some triceps. Now we're going to do what's called a superset. So although I'm yapping away right now, when you're doing this, I want you to do that exercise and then immediately go to this next one. So we've what we call pre-exhausted our triceps. So we haven't completely fatigued them. They're not the primary muscle in this particular exercise, but they are a sister muscle. So they have been used. And so when we go right into this other exercise, it doesn't take as long to get fatigued. And we want to go eventually to what we call momentary muscle failure. And that's where you can't do another one with good form. I don't want you throwing your whole body weight into it and doing whatever you can. I see these people at the gym and I'm just like, oh my God, what are you doing? Good form is more important than how much you're lifting or how many reps you're doing. The reps make a difference because the lower the number, the more you're building muscle as opposed, and I'm using this loosely. So if you really want to hypertrophy and build muscle mass, the fewer reps you do to failure, the better. Now, if you just want long, lean muscles, then you're going to do a higher number of reps, but I wouldn't do more than 15. If you could do more than 15 without getting fatigued, I look at it as kind of a waste of time, okay? So if you're doing 50 of these because you don't want to build muscle, ladies, if you're worried about it, you are not going to just start bulking up unless you're taking testosterone and large amounts or, some other form of steroids. So you want to get rid of those flabby arms. This is a great exercise. We've already done the tricep dips. Now we're adding what we call tricep press downs. So in this one, instead of being out here and having the arms up, now your elbows are locked at your side. Everything else still applies. Belly button's in, kind of a slight, tilt to neutralize the pelvis. Knees are soft. You want to make sure your wrists are stiff. You don't want to see this, okay? And what you're going to do here, you're going to exhale and you're going to push down to the midline of your body and slowly come up. If that's not enough tension, go back. All right, I'm going to look straight ahead. I'm still exhaling down, inhaling up, and you should feel it within a few repetitions because, like I said, we've already warmed those muscles up. And I'll just do 10 of these as well. All right, so we did our straight arm press downs, and then we did the tricep presses. And then you can do a little tricep stretch. And if you want to add your dips in today, you can do that. Now, I've also got some little bitty weights. Now, these are only 2 pounds, and I want you, particularly if you're at risk for lymphedema, do not start, if you're at risk for lymphedema in your upper body, you start with body weight. So anything that I'm showing you, you can do isometrically, okay? I mean, no, it's not gonna do a whole lot, but I want you to just do, 12 to 15 reps of that. And then the next day, if you don't have any swelling in your arm, there's no pain, then you go to 1 pound, then you go to 2 pound, then you go to 4 or 5, whatever increments you can get. But we don't know how much your lymphatic system can handle. And so it's really important to start and progress slowly. Now, if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, lymphedema, you haven't had lymph nodes removed, you haven't had radiation, then just ignore this, okay? This is for my folks who have had breast cancer or head and neck cancer in terms of the upper body. But for everybody else, I think it's safe to say you could start with about 2 pounds. Now, I don't have a chair in here, but you can start doing this actually on a chair. And actually, in fact, I do have a chair. Let's try this. I'm not sure how well this will work because it's got a back, but let me try and do it like this because we could do one arm at a time. Okay, so this is called a tricep kickback. Now, I can position myself like so, and I'm gonna get my arm up and go straight back. So this movement is just at the elbow joint. I wanna keep my spine as straight as possible though. So I always wanna have good posture, whatever that looks like. I'm exhaling as I push back, and I'm inhaling as I come in. I also wanna keep my neck in neutral because if I'm looking up like this, I'm gonna have a sore neck when I'm done. Okay, so I just did 12, and then I can just switch around, and I'm gonna look straight ahead, and I'm kind of balancing on this chair. This is not ideal. So this is the third tricep exercise that I've given you. So we have the dips, we have the press downs, these are the kickbacks, and I'm actually gonna show you one more as well. Now, I'm not at all saying that you have to do all 4 of these exercises and do 3 sets of each one, but it gives you some variety. For one thing, your body gets used to whatever you're doing. So in 2 months, if you've been doing the same exercises over and over, you want to switch it up a little bit. You can switch the order, you can switch the intensity, you can switch the frequency, the duration. These are all things that we have control over. So another one is an overhead extension. Now, if you have limited shoulder range of motion, so this is also going to pertain to my head and neck people and my breast cancer. If you can't get your arm up, so if after your mastectomy you can only get your arm to here, don't do this exercise, okay? Eventually, yes, but first I want you to be able to get your arms straight up and down, or pretty close. So I'm going to start with my arm up, and then I'm going to take my other hand and support beneath the elbow. And then I'm going to let that arm come back. Now, people can do this lying on their back also, and this becomes what's called a skull crusher, and I'll let you figure out why. Let me show you what this looks like from the back. That's the nice thing about a swivel chair. So same thing, 10 to 12 on each side, and then you want to bring it straight down, and then we can switch sides. So we go straight up, and then support here. Blow it out as you go up, inhale down. Now, if you hear my elbow clicking, that would be arthritis. It's okay. It's not hurting me, but I do have to be careful of how much weight I lift because I have had overuse injuries in both of my elbows. I have chronic tennis elbow in one, and in this elbow, I actually have, what is it called? It's like a cubital tunnel syndrome, which is like carpal tunnel, but in the elbow. So I've had cortisone injections and PRP in both elbows. I mean, it was so bad. I couldn't have even lifted 2 pounds a few months ago. So I have to be really careful. And I just say this because you can do too much. And I have been notorious in my life for doing too much. So I wouldn't do dips on a swivel chair, but you know, I could do these. I can't give you a side view that way. Let's see. So we would just be doing this. And again, I repeat, I would not recommend a swivel chair, but I just want to show you. We have that. We have the tricep press downs. We have the overhead presses, and we have the kickbacks. So now we've got 4 different exercises for triceps. Now this exercise, like I said, the triceps are assisters. It's primarily working back muscles and then your rotator cuff, your shoulder girdle stabilizers. But this exercise has saved my shoulders through the years. I used to teach kickboxing, and so I've had a lot of overuse injuries, and this one is really great. And I want to now show you another exercise that is going to be for scapular stabilization. Now, first I'm going to show you in the chair. Okay, and then we're going to move to the wall. But sitting up nice and tall, and it'd be ideal if you had a high back chair or a weight bench that you could make go straight up. You're going to retract your shoulders. You're going to draw your belly button towards your spine. Now your arms are going to go out at about 45 degrees to your body. But I want you to turn your palms up slightly. So this particular move is called shoulder scaption. And what we're doing is you're going to think about squeezing a tennis ball between your shoulder blade throughout the movement. So all 10 to 12 reps. So belly button's in, head is back. I retract my shoulders and then I come up. And then slowly going down. So each time I retract, belly button in, I do a little test. I'm sorry I can't get all of me in here. I guess if I move back further I can. Okay, blow it out as you go up. And so this would be where you would start with no weights. And then you could add some weights. I can find where the little weight went. Here we go. And 2 pounds is heavier than it seems. So we exhale up, making sure we're squeezing those shoulder blades together. So I think between the no weights and the weights, I probably did about 10. And this was actually a little challenging for me because I haven't done this in a while because I've got to be really careful of my neck. Now, while we have these weights, I'm going to go ahead and switch up. So I'm going to use my foam roller. I'm going to do this standing up. So let me get rid of the chair. Now, I'm using the foam roller because it helps me to visualize that I'm actually wrapping my shoulder blades around the foam roller. Now, what I've shown you so far, the circular bands, the bands in a bag, and the foam roller should all cost less than $100. So that's not too bad to essentially have a home gym. So I'm gonna place this on the wall and then I'm just gonna position myself and get that. I'm gonna bend my knees. And so I can do this here and I actually have something to squeeze between my shoulder blades. And I'm exhaling up. Inhaling down. I'm just going to do one more because I don't want to overdo it for myself. All right, so those are 2 ways we can do shoulder scaption. Now, if you want to have nicely defined shoulders, and I will warn you to not overdo it because you don't want to overuse the shoulders. Shoulders and knees are the most common injuries for multiple reasons, but shoulders because they can move in so many different planes of motion. So we increase our risk of hyperextending, and just be really careful and keep the movements to a minimum as you're starting. Don't try and do more than you can. So next we're going to do a frontal raise, and this is going to work your anterior deltoid. Now I'm going to say again, if you don't have full range of motion, so look in the mirror, if you cannot do this, don't do this exercise yet. Just practice doing this and continue to get your arm a little higher. What I don't want to see is you bringing your arm out to here and then bringing it over. You should be able to go up straight in that plane as if you have a pane of glass on each side of your arms. Now we'll start with one arm at a time and a slight bend in your elbow You're exhaling up. You're just going up to shoulder height. Keep my head back. Belly button pulling towards the foam roller. Neutral spine, so my knees are slightly bent. I don't really need the foam roller for this, but it actually feels good. I can do this against the wall. Okay, so I've done 6 on each side. Now I can also do both arms at the same time. I immediately feel that more in my neck, so be aware of that and do whatever works for you. So we have shoulder scaption, which is at, like I said, a 45-degree angle, and that's where the foam roller really feels good because you're wrapping the shoulder blades around. And then we have a frontal raise. So the scaption is more posterior, and then the frontal raise is anterior. Now we can also get some of our medial delt. So if you look at somebody who's really well defined, their deltoid looks kind of like a tulip because you have the anterior, the medial, and the posterior delt. Now notice when I'm bending over, I'm bending my knees to lift up. I'm not doing this because even with light weights, you can hurt yourself doing that. So I'm going to start off, when we talk about the lever system, think about a seesaw. So the further someone is from the midline of that seesaw, you know, if one kid's all the way at the end, he's going to have more leverage than the person on the other side who's not at the end of the seesaw. So think about that with your arm. If I put the weight here, it's not as much strain on the joint as it is if I put it all the way out here. So we're going to start with a limited lever, and we're just going to raise up to here. Now we're going just below shoulder height. I don't want to go up here. I don't want to jack up my upper trapezius and my neck muscles. I'm exhaling up, inhaling down. From the side, it looks like this. Always thinking about my posture and my form. After you've done that for a while, and if you're not, feeling challenged enough, then you can go to a full arm. But you always want a slight bend in your elbow, and you want to make sure that your wrists remain straight, stiff, like you have metal cuffs on them. So we don't want flimsy wrists because you'll end up having wrist problems too. And if you couple that with overdoing push-ups, you can end up with ganglion cysts, and there's so many issues. So I'd rather have you, progress slowly and not have to worry about all of these potential overuse injuries. Just take it one day at a time. All right, so to review, we've got our straight arm press downs, we've got our tricep dips, we've got our kickbacks, and you can do these standing up if you can hip hinge. So remember our hip hinge video, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, where you are basically stepping back and keeping that butt against the wall and hinging forward. That's different than when you're rounding or curling forward. So we want to hinge at the hips, and then you can do your kickbacks like that. You can do them on the chair like I showed you. Then we've got the overhead tricep press. Give it a little stretch afterwards. We did shoulder scaption, we did frontal raises, and we did lateral raises. Let's do a standing side bend. Now you can begin. So we are going to be working your oblique muscles, not the rectus, but you're going to feel this in your sides. And we can start by just reaching down, like you're trying to reach for your toes. And you're going to feel a nice stretch here. And it's kind of hard to tell when to breathe on this one because both could be considered exertion because one side is always exerting. So just make sure your breathing is fluid. And I'm just going to do 10 of these. Okay, now on this side, let's see, I just did this. Okay, so now I'm going to switch and I'm going to add a little resistance. And same thing, even if you can hold a 10-pound weight in your hand, don't overdo it. Make sure you're breathing. Perfect. Now, for those of you who maybe don't like getting up and down or have a hard time getting on the ground, we can actually do, and you can stand by the wall for stability, we can do opposite elbow, opposite knee. Now, what you can do if you are unstable, you can just do one side at a time and use the other arm to support you. Nothing wrong with that at all. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. Okay, and then turn around and do, I'm trying to let you see what I'm doing, but okay, so opposite elbow, opposite knee. We're working multiple muscle groups. And the good thing about that is that we are burning more calories. So let's leave it at that for today. Try and get your bands ordered, and I will also do some leg exercises with the bands and the door attachment on Thursday. If you have any questions, hit me up or hit me up with a personal note. If you're having problems with any of the exercises we've already learned, or questions about, this week we're doing a vegan meal plan. If you need some modifications or anything, let me know, and look for my post. I'm going to talk about foods that are high in alkalinity versus those that are not, and the effect they have on your body. So until next time, have a great workout.